Hi, my name is Connie and I am a cash flow and business mentor. And I think it's time that we have real conversations with entrepreneurs about how they start their business and how money interacts with it. For way too long, it's all been about top line, making 6 to 7 figures, and really focused on that. The problem is, that's great. I mean, it's great to make that type of impact, but they're not. The money is not flowing through the business. They are not paying themselves. They are not contributing to social justice. They are not making impacts on their communities. And so it is less about what they're making and what they're doing with it. And that's why Fortune Fridays is here. We're going to talk to real entrepreneurs at different levels of their business, different industries. We might even bring in some experts to talk about money-related issues. I just want to have more conversations so there will be less ick around money and more empowerment. So welcome to Fortune Fridays. I hope you enjoy them. Welcome to Fortune Fridays interview series, where we're talking with business owners and entrepreneurs about money and numbers and how they relate to it. It's a new series, and so it's evolving as we go. Today, though, we're going to talk to Bridget Baker, who I work with, who is the brand creator and the website person behind the new brand, Profit with Connie. And I'm just really excited to talk to Bridget today. We're going to find out that she has a nomad lifestyle. Currently, when we're shooting this, she is in Austin. And you love that you live in a world where Wi-Fi is free everywhere, which I like, where she can get a good vegan breakfast taco, which you can't find that everywhere, and where entrepreneurs know they don't have to go it alone. As a brand designer, her focus is on keeping branding simple, clear, and fun. And she focuses on the mojo behind the brand, which was interesting when I went through my brand design, was finding that mojo behind it and how the colors related to it. So it was a really awesome experience. Behind the brand, what sets it apart, and on the big differences her client can make in the world. When she's not designing logos, websites, or crafting blogs, you can find her eating a plant-based meal cooked by her husband. Aw, that's so nice.
I'm so lucky.
in your travel trailer, where they live full-time with their Ratshi Terrier. Okay, it was named Little. Her passion is minimalism, organizing, and decluttering. And you were labeling your drawers when you were 7? Did you like have a label machine at 7, or were you?
No, I wrote right on the drawer.
Okay.
Socks, underwear,
Nice. And Living Simply has allowed her to be a digital nomad, working from wherever she has signal from her hotspot. So I think that was amazing when I first met you. In fact, we've met in person a couple times now, but when we first met, it was digital. It was in this virtual environment. So where's the most unique place you've gone in your RV?
The most unique place, I would say we just traveled there. We actually went back for the second time because we liked it so much, is Bisbee, Arizona, which is this weird little magic old mining town. And we stay in RV park. So the RV park is literally like overlooking this old mine, and you can walk into town, and it's sort of like a part haunted town. So there's all these ghost tour things. It's one of the coolest little places that we've been.
Nice.
We wouldn't have discovered it. We wouldn't have even known to think of it, other than it's like on the way to and from somewhere. So we've got to go these places because of that.
Well, that's cool. Do you guys have a dream goal to go to?
The dream goal initially, and I don't know if we'll ever get there, but when we started out, oh my gosh, 4 years ago, can't believe it's been 4 years, was to go to Alaska in the trailer. And, it's still a dream to get there. Whether we get there in the trailer or not, I don't know. The practicality of how you get your trailer to there is quite difficult.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a requirement of having a visa to get there.
Well, it's it just there's all kinds of things. What you're driving your trailer across is not really feasible. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
you can like ferry it over, and it's very expensive. And so, so you might just fly over there at some
Oh,
point.
an actual vacation outside of it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, thank you for joining me today. And we're going to talk about money. The first question I'd like to ask is, what is your earliest memory around money?
So my earliest memory around money, I struggle with this question, even though I feel like I've looked at this before. Very much so. My parents came from wealthy parents, both of them. So it was kind of, I would say I lived a privileged life, and I didn't even know I lived a privileged life. I was an only child. I always got everything I wanted. I never had any want, and I didn't even really knew what that meant. And then on top of that, I remember wanting to learn about money, and my dad said, you don't have to worry about that. Like, it was like, very much, we got you, we're going to take care of it. I don't know how old I was, maybe middle school or something. I was wanting to buy something. He's like, you don't have to worry about that. And then I remember the same thing. It was seventh grade or something like that. And Guess jeans were the trend. That shows you how old I am. Guess jeans were the trend, and they came out, and everybody's really into, there's no generic version. You have to have the label. And I wanted them so badly, and they were really expensive at the time. And my dad was like, no, we can't afford those. And I went, like, it just shocked me. I remember thinking, that's weird. I thought everything just worked out always. Like, for the first time, it was like, oh, maybe we can't afford something. And it sort of started these wheels spinning in my head, for sure. Around maybe I better learn more about this stuff.
And did they have more conversations about that? Or
no, not really. I had to kind of go seek things out on my own and talk to my friends. And it was still a very much like, yeah, you'll worry about that later when you're older kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I remember wanting to understand it more, wanting to know how come some people didn't have money. And because I went to public school, luckily I lived in a place where we had good public schools, and, we had people on welfare at my public school, and then very rich people at the public school. So I just remember thinking, well, this is weird. This person's my friend, and how come they can't go do the things I can do? And I couldn't really wrap my brain around it.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to think about, as kids, that came up, and how we just didn't think about it. I mean, I think the earliest for me was when money started to become an issue. The question was, you can go get a job, right? You could babysit. At 9 and 10, that wasn't an option, right? We had to wait until we were older for that. So
yeah. And I never babysat or got jobs. I was training to be a professional dancer. So from the time I was 9 years old, really, I knew what I wanted to do. And so I was training in that. So every spare hour was dance training and things like that. And so there was no side job in high school. I knew I was like going into my career. So it was my parents invested in me in that way.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So your dad told you not to worry about money, but then at one point said, no, we can't afford that piece. Yeah. Did the conversations with dad change as you got older about money?
No. What I think mostly what I realized was he was raised in the way that, like, the man's the provider. And so there's very much like that. Like, well, eventually you're going to have your own husband to take care of this. But until then, I'm your dad, and I'm in charge of this thing or whatever. And I remember even when it came to being, I was on their health insurance, I think, till I was 25, which happens for a lot of people people have corporate jobs. And I wanted to do my taxes, and he was like, no, I got it. I'll do your taxes. And it's like, he didn't want me to learn about these things. He didn't think I needed to. And I didn't, learn about balancing a checkbook. And I realized that later on I went, well, they're not really that great at managing money. And it was so weird to me because it seemed like we always had everything. So it's like, I said, oh, I have to take responsibility for myself and not blame the reason don't have money or the reason I don't have whatever is on, my dad not teaching me about it. Yeah. And finally I realized he's his own person going through his own things in life, and it's not his fault,
Yeah. But that's interesting, because a lot of people don't learn that till much later. Sometimes even they'll marry a relationship where the husband takes that role, and then the husband passes. And so a lot of women don't learn that until they're widowed. So
yeah, I'm in charge of that in my house now, even, you know, and my husband is older than me, and he has been in charge of it for other people before. And he's gone, you like doing it, you're better at it. I'm like, yeah, it's easy for me. It's great, you know, so.
Okay. And so that takes us into this one, because I know what the answer is going to be. So choose one. Love numbers, strong dislike of number, or pure avoidance, which we know that's not it. But what's your opinion on numbers?
I would say I don't love numbers. Strong dislike, maybe. Yeah. I don't love them, but I feel like when I get into a spreadsheet and I start playing with them, I feel power. So sort of the abstract concept of it feels weird, but then when I get in there and do some work on it, it's like, oh, this is manageable. Okay, there's money coming. Okay, this is how much that is. And it starts to all fall into place. It's sort of like organizing, and everything just falls into place when it's organized like that for me.
Oh, I love that. It's funny because you had this dad who wanted to take care of it all, so you had to self-learn. You didn't have any role models that kind of helped self-learn, an aunt or grandma or anybody? No. Wow.
I didn't. I had a very small family, and I didn't know my grandparents at all, so I didn't have any elders teaching me about that. And then the other piece of it was, you know, at that age because I was pursuing this dance career, they don't get paid very much money, dancers, especially back then. And I was 18, and I remember they gave me half of a salary. They split a salary between me and another person. And they said, well, you're lucky to have a job at all. It was one of those, like, you're lucky to get paid anything to do what you do. You know, and so I remembered, I was like, okay, so I'm going to have to figure this out or take charge, you know, myself. So yeah, I think out of an absence of role models, I got to build my own way and learn my own way to create it.
Interesting. And what in the environment that you were in, were the other dancers, were they looking to you to help with money, or was it a conversation that you had in a regular?
Yeah, sometimes definitely. Because I remember even not making very much money, and then still having money to do things. And I was like, how did I magically do this? You know, because I would know when to sort of spend money. I would know when I could go shopping, or I'd go to the sale rack instead of the regular rack. Like I had, you know, I just was budgeting, I guess, at an early age.
You didn't know.
Yeah. I was like, why not go to the sale rack first? Why do you got to like buy it? That was very much a thing for me. Why do you have to have the newest thing? Why can't I just last week's? Because, you know, in the store, the stuff on the sale rack is 2 weeks old or something. I mean, so I kind of learned that to go beyond fashion a little bit, or what's, you know, being lured by that.
That's interesting. That's interesting that. Okay, so what do you think your natural money style is? Have you looked at that before? I'm getting from your minimalist background. I'm thinking more saver.
Yeah, I think I'm sort of a balance, and I think it's interesting because it balances out in partnership. I get very much this sense of like, I have to have I have all my debt paid off, right? I mean, it's like those things are important to me. I get freaked out when I have to take on debt for something. Like we bought a new car recently unexpectedly. So it was car payments. And I wouldn't, it's like, oh, something's wrong. We didn't have enough money. We have to pay car payments. And I'm like, it's okay. We need a car. What are you going to do? And so definitely I would say I'm more of a saver and more of a budgeter that way. But I also realize sometimes, you know, I would have said no to certain experiences in my life that I didn't put money first. Like been to Burning Man, for example, when I had no job, because I just went, well, I have no job anyway. Might as well go to Burning Man and spend a bunch of money, because I had experiences. So that's why we travel full time. It's like I value experiences over buying things. So, definitely I'm always looking at, should we be traveling? Do we need that experience? Can we just relax? Or how can I get an experience for less money? Like going hiking, for example, is free. Mm-hmm. So things like that.
Cool. And I love the fact that you primarily use a spreadsheet to track your money right now.
Yep.
And you find joy in that, because it's the organizing of it into little things. Do you use a lot of color on it?
I don't use so much color, actually. I sort of do the colors for categories kind of things, but then black and white, I sort of make it a sort of design element. Of course, it's in my brand colors, like this, just, yeah.
Well, yeah.
I do geek out about that stuff. Like, it has to be the right font on the Google spreadsheet. Like, those things are very important to me.
It's important to carry your brand all that way through. I mean, a good brand does, right, carry all the way through in a business.
Yes.
So.
Well, and it's definitely, like I said, it helps me. And recently even, I've been cutting some things out of my expenses and going, do I really need that? Is there another tool that I can use that's less expensive, or is the less expensive tool just more work? So when I'm looking at it all as line items, it makes it easier for me to go, oh, wow, I'm spending quite a bit of money in that category. Like, maybe there's something I don't need in there.
Yeah. And so, on your spreadsheet, you do dump them into buckets. So like, is all your software in one? You don't like break out a line item for each one?
I do. My business expenses are low. So because I don't have overhead, I don't have employees, I don't have, it's me and my computer mostly. So there's lots of software and things. It's really just, one category for my business, one category for personal travel, whatever, I have different pieces that way.
I had a conversation with somebody, like normal accounting tools, you have these buckets of expenses like office supplies or software, subscriptions now are a normal everyday line item, but you don't know what's in there. So when I was working with a client on her financial plan, we needed to like pull that out and like kind of look at it. And I found too, I was paying for things like they would renew, and I was like, oh, darn it. I meant to cancel that auto renewal because I haven't touched that software in a year or something. So I think it's interesting because another person I spoke with that does a spreadsheet, she has every line item has the expense on it, so she can clearly see what she's spending.
I have the expenses, and then I have it divided by like monthly, and then I have one that's annual because some subscriptions come up annual. And so I check in with that. Sometimes I get in an obsessive mode and I check in almost daily with all these things, but most of the time it's like I check in once a week and I look at the annual and I'm like, oh, when is that coming up for renew? Do I still use that? Do I still need that? Is there something that's made that become obsolete? And then I put a reminder in my calendar also. So that's the other piece, is I put a reminder in my calendar that it's coming up. And so then I have time to cancel. There's some kind of, I don't know if it's an app or software that tells you all the things you're subscribed to. Because what people get really screwed up with is, on your iPhone, you sign up for a 2-week free trial or a month free or whatever, and then you're suddenly auto billed and you forgot it, and then you're still paying for something that you're not even using. And I've had clients, they're like, months down the road, $15 at a time, it adds up.
Yeah. We don't normally realize what that is until we get like a new credit card or something, and everything has to be changed over, and you're like, what's that expense for? So you brought up a couple of things that were really interesting. One is your spreadsheet. I love the color on your spreadsheet. But you have an annual tab and you have monthly tabs. But the piece that was interesting is that sometimes you get really over obsessive about it. So it's kind of like it's a grounding experience for you, though. Do you find that a spreadsheet, when money gets really chaotic in your brain and you're going into a little anxiety mode, that the spreadsheet grounds you?
Yes. And it does. I think it's something tangible, because also not only is the nature of my business sort of unpredictable and not consistent every month, even though I have some like consistent monthly income from retainer clients and things like that. Some months I'm busier than others. Some months I have more work. And then our lifestyle, even oftentimes we're traveling and our expenses aren't the same each month. Like we do like these monthly RV parks, and it's a certain rate in one state versus another state, or this different season, so that's not always consistent. So usually when I'm feeling scarcity, I go in there and I go, well, let me just look at the numbers, and I go, you know what? Okay, I've looked at them. It's going to be okay. Or, okay, I need to do something about this, because otherwise my head just swirls around with like, oh gosh, I'm panicking about money, and that's never a good place to be in.
Yeah, and so that's an interesting space, because so you guys travel, so expenses can be up and down, and you both are self-employed, so you
Yes.
have inconsistency
Yep.
in how the income comes in. And so have you crafted like profit savings or rainy day savings accounts to help with those ups and downs?
Yeah. I've gotten better and better about being able to actually save money to do that over the years. Like I've increased my income, which has then increased my savings. You know, I wish I could say I have 6 months income saved, but not quite there yet. You know, and I try to let go of the should. I have to have that, or something's wrong with me. I'm trying to go, look, I'm making progress. I'm doing better than I've ever done. But yeah, I definitely have that set up.
So I really love how you use numbers. I mean, wish more business. I know that when I went through growth, I did not lean into my numbers. And when I didn't lean into my numbers, I felt more anxious. But that's what I hope for business owners, to have that empowerment grounding experience with their numbers, finding a way to look at them. A lot of the times we push it to another person just to take care of, and we're in that avoidance stage. But there is something about knowing what they are, having a understanding of how you can control them, and not power. I want to say, well, I'll ask, do you feel like you have power over them, or they're empowering you to move forward?
That's interesting. I think they're empowering me to move forward. Yeah, I wouldn't say I wish I had full power over them. I don't feel like I'm at that point. It's still like tax time hits and I go, even though I've known how much money I've made and I'm keeping track of it, it's like there's this scary, oh gosh, this is what I owe. This is scary. There's still those kinds of feelings. I don't feel like, oh, I'm so on top of it. Of course, here, take my money. Like, you know, not there yet. I don't know if I'll ever get there, and that's okay.
So did you get to this point? Most businesses have a space of they've either made an investment or they've had some type of roadblock where they've hit that rock bottom moment and looked up and go, okay, that's not what I wanted. I need to make another choice. Did you have something like that that helped arrange all these things as you went from professional dancer to mojo brand designer?
So many things
between there and here.
I've pivoted a lot in my career choices and paths, and not careers, but jobs, right? I remember before I built my business doing this 10 years ago, I was in what I thought was a great stable job. I had like a salary, you know, I was in charge of things. I was like, look at this, look at me. I'm just so grown up, right? I was managing an office and managing HR for a company, and they started not doing well financially, and they were spending lots of money, like on crazy things. And it was in the entertainment industry. So there's lots of like how you should look, how you should entertain people with really fancy parties and all kinds of things. And so because I was in the HR department, I was in charge of payroll and things like that. And they weren't paying people. They hadn't paid people for like 6 weeks at some point.
Wow.
Yeah. Which, you know, is not legal. And so it got to a level of like, I don't know if even regardless of the money, first of all, I went into this because I wanted this, felt like a stable everyday job. And that's clearly not happening. So my need for stability was like, oh, this can happen anywhere, first of all. Mm-hmm. Second of all, I went, you know, it's very important to me to work somewhere that's in alignment with my values, and the way they were doing things was not. And I started to realize that I didn't even know that about myself, you know? So I think having that job was really pivotal for me. And then I went, you know, what if I could just go out and create my own thing? What would that look like? And so I was so frustrated. I couldn't figure out what to do next. And I just sat down with my husband, who's amazing. He was a former HR manager too. And so he was really like, it's like, you know, it's weird. You take your job, like your job's like a part of you. And I realized, you know, it is. And that's like just how I am. That's okay. I don't want it to be separate from my, you know, work life. I want to feel integrated with my job. And so I started to come up with things that I was good at and liked doing, and just started building it and building it and building it. And now it's just built. And I wouldn't have thought 10 years ago I would be doing the things I'm doing in my business now, and I love it.
That's awesome. Because even a year ago, you were doing more websites, and so I want to encourage that businesses think of that this is a growing trend. what we did even a year ago, even for me, is not what I currently do. It's a piece of, it's part of the journey. It was something we had to learn so that it makes us more stronger consultants. And like if you hadn't learned how to craft websites and do the graphic designs, you wouldn't show up as the knowledgeable consultant you are around brand, because now you can have this whole brand conversation and know all these little pieces that go into this, and so that you can guide the business owner in how to work with their team on those things. And
I got out of the I mean, I still do that. I still like doing the website stuff, and I do it, but initially, I started out, it was almost like a VA, virtual assistant type thing, where it was just, and I was very hourly focused, but the kind of work I was getting, the kind of people I was working with, I didn't feel like I was really part of the bigger vision for people's brands and companies. And that's what I like. That's where I geek out on. It's like being part of the bigger picture with the company.
That's so cool. It's cool because the stories you've told so far is like you've had these own awarenesses. I mean, you've had this little thing with money and from your dad really early on about, oh, okay, here's an opportunity door, and you walk through it. And because a lot of the times people will like hit that door and take what we learned from our parents and bounce off it and go the other direction. Like, oh, okay, that's not something. So if you had not opened that door to learn about money, to learn what that means, or learn how to budget when you were a dancer and really understand how to manage your own money, you may not have ever become a business owner.
No, and I think even with my, what I thought I didn't learn from my parents about money, what I did learn is they gave me this opportunity to build a dream career. They had the means to do that. And so I got to be what everybody's dream is to be when they grow up as a ballerina. I actually got to be that professionally, and still chose to leave. But I think that has shaped me in every job that I've been in, because I've gotten to choose, oh, wow, what do I really want for my life? What can I really envision? Where do I really want to go with this? And noticing when I hit mindset roadblocks and that, like, I can't because I'm a woman, I can't because I'm too old, too young, whatever, as I go along the way, or I can't start a business without investing $50,000, or I can't do this without, certain shoulds and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
So you didn't have mentors growing up. You didn't. Do you have them now? Do they help? People that you lean into now?
I mean, I would say you're one of them. Definitely. Because it's like, you give me a different way to approach money. I think, I remember reading, how old was I? 20 something, Suze Orman. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, okay, some of it stuck. And I'm very much a person that's like, I'll just take pieces of what I like and like let go of it. But I remember a lot of it just left me feeling worse, left me feeling like shame and guilt around what I hadn't done yet. It's like, you should have this at this point. Your life has to look like this, or you're bad and wrong. And then several other people, like when I got out of debt, I did the Dave Ramsey method, basically. and that helped a lot. But there were certain things where I was like, I could go like out to eat every now and then and just not do something here. Like I'm not going to, the latte, what's the other one? The Latte Factor, whatever. So, I mean, I think I like mentored myself by reading books and with the support of other people, but now it's like aligning myself with business owners. Cause I didn't network with business owners for a long time. I got all my clients from referral, and I didn't do any network groups. I was very resistant to networking at all. I was like, I didn't want to do a big in-person group. I'm like, my business is virtual. I don't need to network. But what I realized is I get to actually have conversations with other business owners about their business and see how it is for them with money and the choices they're making and where they're putting their money. And so that's been really, and not even people that are clients, but they're people that are just willing to have those kind of conversations. So I think, I'm mentored by my colleagues in that sense, and I get inspired by them all the time.
And you and I are in a virtual networking group. Do you do other virtual, or when you travel around, is that one of your decisions of where you go in case you can find a networking group?
No, I haven't really even done. It's funny because I was actually gonna go in Portland to your networking group. If we get there again, I want to go. I have not done any in-person networking groups. I am a part of a business coaching program that basically has a Slack channel with, there's hundreds of us in there. So that's its own, I mean, we're literally just constantly giving each other free advice and information and resources. And it's amazing. It's very worth the money that I spend on the whole program. Because not only the coaches, but as well as the people in it, we're all resources for each other. So that's a big one that I have. And then I'm also developing a course with 3 other entrepreneurs. And so we network with each other in that sense. And
that's smart. Cool. I hadn't heard of a coaching program using Slack. That's interesting.
Yes.
Cool. Okay. Are they using other things? Are they doing trainings, or do you guys ever see?
It's a program called Wandering Aimfully, and not to do a marketing plug or anything, but they developed this software called Teachery. So it's a online course platform. And so they use that course platform for their course. They've got, you sign up, it's a monthly subscription fee. It's 6 months, and then you can renew if you want. So you get the course platform, you get it's like a 2-hour group coaching session every month. And then you get access to various Slack channels on their workspace.
Nice. And have you ever used Slack to connect with other people on video, or just through the channel?
Just through the channel.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love that, because it's out of the box thinking. And as society changes and moves forward, having these more virtual ways of connecting are going to be, I think, more essential. I remember, because I ran a networking group here in Oregon for a long time, but Portland is very much, I have to see you, let's do coffee or tea.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I'm like, can't we do it virtually? We could do the same thing on Zoom. You make your own tea, I have my own tea.
Yeah.
I think people will be more open to it as we move forward. But Slack, I have right now, somebody's using Marco Polo. And it's a very small group, and they're enjoying Marco Polo. So
yeah, I haven't gotten it. The other one is, the weird thing that happened to me yesterday was I followed someone on Instagram, because I've been pretty selective about people that do something sort of similar or peripheral to what I do. Because if I follow them, I start getting into a comparison trap and going, oh, they've got more followers, and they're further, whatever my comparison thing brain does. But I followed this person, and he immediately sent me a voice message through Instagram, which I did not know was a thing. You can not only send someone a DM, but he literally sent me, hey, Bridget, da, da, da. And I'm thinking, this makes me feel so special. He's got 4,000 followers, and he sent me this message, and I sent him one back, and then he sent me another one back. I said, this is so cool. Because hearing someone's voice is very different,
Yeah.
Like, I'm really connecting, and this person with all these followers is really taking this time to connect with me. This feels amazing.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. So voice, video, I think I got one, somebody sent me my own video in an email one time, and I'm like, this is so awesome. It was really short, but I think it goes back to, what do you want your brand to be? And if we're wanting to be this, creating this virtual community, or being forced to create a virtual community, how do you keep that connection? And it's possible. It's just, if you're used to an office environment like we were as employees, and coming into being business owners where we were detached as well, maybe it's taking some time, but we would also take time to drive to an event so it's the same thing. It's just, our brains just have to be open to different.
Yeah, I've had clients too, because all my clients I've had the privilege, like I met you in person. As we've traveled, I get to meet some of my clients in person, which is great. But I start out usually having a virtual relationship, and I have one client that I worked with on a small project, and then he needed his website done. We chatted. He's like, I really feel better working with someone local. And this was a few years ago. And I thought, okay, this is interesting. This is for him. He thinks that whatever his comfort level or whatever, he's like, I'm going to sit down in person with someone, more is going to get done. And he couldn't find anybody. And then I kind of he reached back out to me, and after the process, he goes, it felt like you were there with me. It didn't feel like, because the way, I will video chat with him, and and communicate a lot with him. And he was like, oh, I didn't feel like, because I think in his head, he thought if we're long distance, like I'm going to be waiting for emails from you. I'm not going to have access to you or something.
And some people do set their business up that way. They're very detached. And I think in today's society, it's something we're going to have to shift a bit. I remember, I had never thought about it. One of my team members, I was like, okay, we're moving to a virtual experience. One of my team members had, Jill had moved to back east, was I think her first thing. And so, okay, you're going to use, I think we were using Skype at the time, and you're going to video chat with Jill, and she's going to walk you through how to do this stuff. And I never realized that to ask if somebody was comfortable to be on video, first off. And so this was much younger than me, in her 20s, and that never crossed my mind. And so being open to doing that, being open to working. Bookkeeping is the same thing. We had a lot of resistance to doing virtual bookkeeping. It's a trust issue. So
yeah, and it's hard to get beyond the introverted extrovert. Like I think I've changed over time. That clearly I was a performer. I used to be a lot more extroverted. But I start to realize like I can only handle so many video calls per day. I had to realize that at some point. And like certain days of the week, I go, you know what? I'm not talking to anybody today. My Friday is like shut down my calendar day. So, it's interesting when people want to start connecting more, you have to realize you got to still set boundaries around. Yeah. Okay. Just because they have more access to me doesn't mean I need to be available all the time. And you got to figure that out for yourself.
Yeah. That's a good boundary rule. All right. Well, I always like to end the interviews with some type of inspiration, a gratitude about your business, how it contributes to your life or money, if you'd like. Do you have a gratitude that you can share with us today?
Let's see. Well, I am very grateful to be talking with you right now, mostly in that, saying yes to doing this interview, and all the questions you asked in advance too were really great, because it had me thinking about money in ways that I wasn't necessarily thinking about it. And even the answers that you pulled out of me today in this interview, I was surprised what was coming out of my mouth sometimes. So it's good. It's reflected me back to me, and I'm really grateful for that. It has me definitely feel a lot more abundant, for sure.
Nice. And I know that we're going to put a link. You have a guide that you're going to share with people, because people can find you at bridgetbakermojo.com. You have a minimalist brand mojo guide, 8 steps to simplifying branding. And why would they want to look at that? I know why, but why would they want to look at that?
Well, they would want to look at that. First of all, that is feeding into an online course that I'm developing that should be complete maybe by the time this comes out. I don't know. But it's sort of a DIY branding piece. And, part of it is when I work with my clients, they sort of don't even know what they need to know about the branding process. And I go to work with them thinking they've got some of these answers that they don't have in place yet, or people might be wanting to design something themselves or go work with another designer. And they're trying to piecemeal things together. And so it's, this guide kind of creates this sort of, here's all the pieces you need to know, very simplified. Why are you doing it? Those kind of things. Who are you working for? Those types of things. And so it kind of breaks it down, and it's great. I actually had one client that downloaded it. She talked to me. She goes, I've kind of built my own little mini course around it before I had a branding session with you. And I thought, this is so cool. So it's just it's a way to get some insight into some clarity, maybe in a different way than you've thought about your business and brand.
Yeah, because I think my first experience with what I thought was a brand was a logo design, 19 years ago. And I found that was super interesting, but that is not a brand. It's a pretty logo with colors that, coming from corporate, that's what you thought a brand was. But
I even went through this process with you with your logo and going, wait a minute, are we just choosing this out of what we think looks cool, or does this really represent your brand? And to kind of realize, oh wait, is this really like getting clear about it? Does this really speak to your audience and all this? And then the minimalist. So it's my focus now is becoming, because I consider myself a minimalist, and that's something that I write about, and that's important to me in building a lifestyle. I think you can build your brand in a minimalist way also. People think they have to do so many things at once and they overwhelm themselves, and there's so much information out there, and it's sort of simplifying and cutting through the noise and going, what's essential? What is important to you? What's important to your clients? What do you like? What, let's keep it simple. Let's not get ahead of ourselves or again, compare yourself. I want a website like so-and-so or a brand. Really? What is that? It's not you. Let's keep it simple.
And I like that because it really does follow your idea around money too. It's around, it's not necessarily going to the bargain shop every day, but it's minimalizing, bringing it in slowly and growing from that. Not so many of us have made investments like more times than not, I have invested in a website and it's not worked. Or, because the website we did, this was my 4th website. I'm very happy with this website, and there's a lot of things I learned along the way that I wouldn't have. But my suggestion is to focus on the brand, to focus on how you want people to interact with you, and really let it stand on its own. And then all of it comes in: color, the way things move, the way the copy talks to people. And
without being dogmatic too, it goes into messaging, and if you keep that simple funnel of is this consistent with my brand, it gets into that, gives you sort of a container.
Nice. Well, thank you, Bridget. We'll put a link, but what best place to follow you is on Instagram?
Yes. On Instagram, I'm at BB Minimalist Mojo. That's my Instagram. Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you can also check her out at bridgetbakermojo.com. And, when you schedule a call with her, you can ask her why she goes by Mojo in her in her brand.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bridget. I appreciate you taking the time. So be well.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy money. Okay.
Thank you.